Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Danielle. Yes, New Frontiers. It's where we're trying to help you turn your business idea into a successful startup. That's what you want to do, and it's what we want you to do. So in this support program, and I'll go through particularly focusing on phase 2, but I'll put it in a bit of context of how the whole program works, so you can make an informed decision. And that's what this is, an information session for you as potential applicants. But you decide. That's one of the strengths of New Frontiers, is we don't own your business, we don't control it, you do. But we are here to give a structured set of support for what is a difficult process. Phase 2 is difficult, startup is difficult. But we don't want you to be afraid of it, because I am going to be telling you that it's worth it for all the people we have worked with over the last 9 or 10 years of New Frontiers across all the TU Dublin campuses. They've enjoyed is not the right word, but used it well and led on to success for the founders, which is what you're planning to do. So a bit of context here. New Frontiers, and this is directly from the national website if you want to follow up. New Frontiers is that national entrepreneur development program. It's delivered at 16 locations throughout the year. As Danielle said, the one we're going to be talking about is the next cycle that has been led by Hothouse on the TU Dublin City campus. But it's not just a start your own business course. There's plenty of them out there. And if they work for you, fire ahead. What we are aimed at and funded by Enterprise Ireland to do is support ambitious early stage entrepreneurs. Early stage is important, so are entrepreneurs. But the other very important word in here is innovative. Innovation-based business ideas, not your run-of-the-mill stuff, the stuff that will go, oh wow, I wish I'd thought of that. You've thought of that. And we want to support you to turn that idea into a business with the potential to scale, and a business with the potential to provide employment, grow investment, all that kind of good stuff. That means you have a sustainable, strong, nationally based but international business. And what we in New Frontiers provide you with is the skills training, the support, and most importantly, the confidence to help you make that leap. As I said, it's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. So we want you to get ready through the structured support of New Frontiers. Who is it for? That early stage is important. If you've got millions behind you already from a business you've started previously, why do you need the program? If you're already up and running with investment, why do you need the program? That's why we focus on early stage entrepreneurs who haven't done this before and who are trying to figure out, this ain't easy, I don't know all the bits, I do know what I know. You're bringing something to the table. We want to bring our experience and Enterprise Ireland's experience of dealing with hundreds of startup founders. But you have the desire to start your own high potential business. With that innovation, again, it keeps coming through with export and employment potential, but you need to be able to show yourself as well as us that there is a commercial market for what you're proposing. Some experience, be it in the sector or technical, it could be software, it could be physical product, it could be service model based, but it needs to be scalable. And you need to bring something to the table, as well as the belief and drive and ambition. The other thing to say about early stage entrepreneurs is we're not expecting a company at this stage. We're not expecting a team at this stage. But given that you are hoping and we are hoping that you'll be going for external professional investment, well then that will be a necessity later in the program. The journey on the program is structured in 3 phases. This is the context. We'll be focusing on phase 2 for this evening's session, But just to give you the context of phase one is where people test their idea. We are not fans of, and it doesn't help the success rate if people just jump off a cliff with an idea and hope that they can build a business around it as they're falling, unfortunately. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's great and they fly. But most of the time we suggest that people spend a bit of preparatory work. Whether it's phase one or other stuff that you've already decided to do or already done in another format, that's grand. It can be, phase one is run part-time, evenings, weekends, and it's run across the 3 campuses of TU Dublin as well. It's not a requirement to have done phase one in order to apply for phase two. It helps because people are in the know, they're in the zone, they're ready to make that informed decision of where am I going next, how am I going to do it, which helps make a stronger application, a stronger case for the full-time support that is there to develop the business, more than an idea, developing the business across the 6 months of phase two, with the expertise of the people we bring in to talk to you and work with you and the program team and the whole set of supports that are there across TU Dublin. Phase three is an ongoing phase afterwards. It can only be accessed by people who have completed phase two. So from now on, I'm going to focus on phase two. It's a national program. You can apply anywhere. Just to flag, if you've done phase one somewhere else, that's fine. People have done phase one with us, might apply somewhere else. You decide when you're ready. You decide, is this the right time? Is the New Frontiers approach and supports right for the strategy or game plan that you have to start your business? So focusing on phase two, I'll talk generally about what we're looking for, what that means in English. It means that innovation or knowledge base is vital. That it means that it's something that will wow the market, but also that has a defensible and scalable bit in there. So we're not fans of Me Too businesses. We're not looking for that. We're not looking for only an app, a marketplace, a social network. What's innovative about that? There may be, but you'll need to make the case. And I'll point out where you can do that in the application form. There are a number of business types that are not eligible because even though they may be very good businesses, they just don't fit the process and the outcomes that New Frontiers is looking for. So professional consultancy as such, where you're dealing one-on-one with people, that doesn't have a potential to scale. And there are certain business types that Enterprise Ireland just will not support as part of their policy. It's not a choice on our part. Anything connected with gambling or with arms or with illegal stuff. And unfortunately, at the moment, there is a policy decision not to deal with hemp-related products from Enterprise Ireland. Again, these could all be very good businesses in their own right and may get support elsewhere, but they wouldn't be relevant for New Frontiers. That potential to scale, we know you're in the early days. We know you're putting together your strategy and model, but Enterprise Ireland is looking for ambition, so are we. What they mean by scale is aiming for greater than 1 million turnover per annum and greater than 10 employees, with hopefully more than 70% of that turnover international export led, and all that within 3 or 4 years. I wish that happened for every business that we deal with. It doesn't always happen in practice, but that would be the minimum ambition because that's what investors are looking for. They're not going to invest significant funds in a business that's turning over 100,000 euros a year, no matter how profitable it is, or no matter how good it is for the founder. It's not necessarily good for the investor. And that's what we are looking for. This requiring external investment, professional. It may be from Enterprise Ireland, it may be from other sources. That's your call because it's your business. But Enterprise Ireland has found, and one of the reasons they started New Frontiers was because they were finding people approaching them for investment who weren't ready. So they've rolled out this program nationally so that the entrepreneurs who are pitching to Enterprise Ireland for investment are readier. We can't give any guarantees, but again, we get people in the zone to do that. Because we're focused on the founder, and we give you as the founder the opportunity to practice what you need to do within the safe structure of a program, and to practice delivering to us as if we are investors, so that you're ready to deal with that situation when you go out into the real world. You manage yourself, and we manage you by milestones. What is it you're setting out to achieve? What is it, your action plan? How are you going to progress? How will that impact on the business? So I suppose what I'm trying to get across here is that this is a structured support program. It's not a course where you attend a few lectures, complete a few assignments, tough and all as that is. This is about you starting a business and us supporting you while you're doing that for 6 months full time. That's why, in our experience, in this crossover between idea to incubation to startup to acceleration, it's a full-time commitment. And that's why it's challenging for you. We want you to make an informed decision, but it's challenging for us to help you through the processes that we know have helped others achieve success before you. So how do we do that? What are the supports in here? Fundamentally, the strongest support is the others on the program, the other entrepreneurs that you will meet in this journey, in this ecosystem. It's a peer development program. So we're not just giving you a template business plan and helping you fill it out. We're supporting you to get all the real meat underlying that. And while you're doing that, yes, there's some cash. That is an attraction of the program. Thank you very much. It is a €15,000 scholarship stipend over 6 months, payable monthly, subject to performance. So as in, if you are getting money from an investor, if they agree to invest 50,000 in your business, they're not going to put in one check straight away. They'll put it in stages, subject to you hitting milestones. That's what we're practicing you doing. It'll be the same, by the way, whether it's 50,000 or 500,000 or more. There will be performance for you as the chief everything officer or the founder that you have to reach. That's what you need to do for yourself anyway, to show to yourself that the strategy is working, that the game plan for building the business is helping you progress. So the total value, as we say on the national website, is 30,000, but 15,000 in cash and 15,000 in kind, which is the rest of the supports that you see mentioned here. Yes, there are workshops. We do require you to attend workshops with experts who know their areas. Those workshops will be in things like strategy, finance, marketing, pitching, legal, sales, team, all the aspects that you have to look at. There's a lot of lanes in this swimming pool for startup, but they'll be short, they'll be relevant and scheduled throughout the 6 months. You're not going to be sitting in a classroom 5 days a week or on a Zoom classroom. Some of them will be on site, by the way. We are thankfully opening up again as a campus, so we will be expecting people to be on site for some of the sessions between now and the end of the program, which will be May next year, from November to May. Part and a lot of what we do, as well as those workshops, is one-to-one follow-ups, so that whatever you've looked at in the workshop and started applying to your business, you can meet somebody again who says, but this is your business one-on-one, so you can apply it, apply your learning and learn from that. This is an iterative process over the 6 months. We ask you to send us in documents, to send us in stuff, deliverables, because that is what helps you build the main outcome that we are looking for, an investment level business plan and pitch with all the supporting evidence that an investor might ask you for, or as much of it as you can, that backs up your case, that if you give me or invest X thousand in my business, this is what I'll return for you. The other supports that come in, that kick in over the 6 months, there is an optional support from the Enterprise Ireland Mentor Network, where you can get 5 meetings with a mentor to help you through the journey. And that mentor is somebody who has C-level experience in their particular sector. And a lot of that would be technology or innovation-based executives. You would have access to the Enterprise Ireland Market Research Centre, where these $7,000 Gartner reports that you can't afford to buy now, you get access to them as part of New Frontiers Phase 2. You do your own market research as well, you do your own customer engagement, but this is a great support that all Enterprise Ireland clients can access, and participants on Phase 2 as well. There is a formal reporting structure every 2 months to Enterprise Ireland and the panel, because that's how the stipend gets signed off on, to say you're still performing. But it's interactive. It's not checking up on you. It's supporting you as to why things are working for you, why they're not. There is ongoing engagement from the program manager and the experts we bring in to help you along and maybe connect you with some other supports that will help you. Yes, you will be practicing your investor pitch. You will be practicing everything from your 60-second elevator pitch to a 10-minute long investor pitch, if you can get to that stage, with the supporting documents built up as you go along that are credible and supported by evidence. Part of New Frontiers Phase 2 as well is access to co-working space and meeting rooms, at the moment subject to COVID restrictions. So a lot of our campuses are not fully open yet, particularly the incubation centres, but we are hopefully working towards that. But we bring you in to kick you out to talk to future customers, to have customer-led design of your platform or product or service or whatever it is. There's no point in you sitting at a desk all the time. It's not getting you into the marketplace, out talking to others who can help you refine and present your case for a scalable, investable business. Next, I'm going to focus on the application form, which will be coming to you online. Everybody who's registered for this session will get the link when that opens on the 27th of this month, that you can open for applications. I'll come back to the detail. Pardon me. The first section A is just about applicant details. Do fill in every question, please. Leaving it blank means that the evaluation panel don't know what your answer is. As well as the regular kind of data about anybody who's applying. Again, it asks one thing: is there a company? There does not have to be, but if there is, tell us about it. Secondly, it asks about any previous enterprise or state type funding. You need to tell us about that, because that does form part of the evaluation. This is a state funded programme, and Enterprise Ireland is part of that funding, whether it's local enterprise office or their own funding or other things like that. Just tell us about it. Next is the structure of the application form. There are 14 questions. It's not easy to fill out. This is why we're having this information session. We don't want a busy entrepreneur wasting their time filling out a form if this program is not for them. So I'll go through some of the highlights that will be there on the form as you get it to complete online in late September, early October. The first question is the most important. The first question sets the scene for whoever reads the rest of it. And this will be read by an evaluation panel. So we're asking you to give a concise description of the product or service. What that actually means is a clear and concise description that highlights what is it. Tell us what it is. Don't assume that we know, but don't go into, detailed technical descriptions of functionality. That's not what we're looking for. Anybody who has done phase one will be familiar with the phrase customer value proposition. That's what we're trying to find out. What is it? What problem does it solve for what customer? Because if you're not solving a problem, they ain't going to buy. So what are you doing for customers that they value? And also be very clear and specific as to how it is innovative. It's business people and experts will be evaluating these forms, but tell us what it is. I read through a complete form one time and I still couldn't tell you whether it was a piece of software or a platform or an app. Tell us the basic stuff. There are 3,000 characters per section and there's 14 sections. So you have room to tell us, but don't just do stream of consciousness will be my advice. Think through how you're saying what you're saying. The next most important part, believe it or not, is you, the promoter. The key promoter founder, the person going on the program who will be responsible for delivery on the program. And this has to be, if there is a team, a senior founder, not an employee. It needs to be somebody with decision-making power in the new business. But usually it's a solo founder, but not always. What is your relevant qualifications and experience? We're looking for commercial background, technical background, management experience, domain knowledge. There's no point in me, saying I'm going to open a software related business. I don't know enough about software. You don't have to be an expert, but you need to have an understanding of the marketplace. If you have some previous work in a startup, that's great. But we're not aiming at people who have raised millions before. There's other supports for those. New Frontiers is for people new to this startup land. If, and this is a big if, you have others on your team or you know the roles that you need to fill. So if you're a technical founder, would you need a salesperson? Do you need a finance person? What are the roles that you reckon you would need to fill to be ready at the end of the program to go for investment with a team? If you have people, what's their time commitment? We're not expecting people to be on board for free yet. So what are they doing with you and when will they come on board? Also, there is a question there that asks you about, have you anybody else that you're talking to? Some people might be talking to investors already. Some people might have an expert who's said, I'll be a formal advisor, a significant business person who you've done more than have a coffee with, but they think this is a good idea and they're willing to back you with their time. They're good to know. They add credibility that it's not just me as the founder saying this is good. There's others have thrown their eye over it, but they don't necessarily have to be part of the team. The other next step, the three most important words here are what I've underlined. What is the opportunity in the market? Define your market. You may, in 10 or 20 years' time, be all things to all people. There's a few large tech companies out there, which you all know the names of. If you turn into those businesses, we'd be delighted. But for now, what is the market opportunity that you're going after with your product or service? So you're not going into the software market. You're not going into the food market. You need to drill down into this and give us the information you have to show us that you understand the customer need and the market dynamics and the market size. Particularly, you need to mention there are competitors. There is no business that has no competitors. At the moment you have a competitor in that people are not doing what you're proposing they should do. So what is it that is out there that you're going to have to change people to in order to have them see that yours is better and will do something extra for them that they value? Have you done research around this already? Have you spoken to any customers? Have you done surveys? Or are there others who have done that, who have done reports that you've managed to get at least the basics of what's out there? And do you have a sustainable competitive advantage? It is okay to have gaps at this point. We're not expecting perfect, because otherwise why would you need the program? But what have you got? What have you started to figure out? And then what you'll see later on that we're asking you, how will you fill that over the 6 months of the program? Do you have existing customers? Some people do, for an early MVP version of their product or service or platform or whatever is the nature of your system. But tell us about them. But is that evidence that they'll buy the next version and the bigger version, or that you'll be able to sell it to others? You will need to make, in order to make a strong application for phase 2, you will need to have spoken to a credible range of potential customers and to have an understanding of who they are. Saying, I haven't done any of that, the potential is for you to be said, come back when you have more, because this will be a competitive process. There will be more applicants than we have places for. So you will be up against people who maybe have done more. But also, this is back to my analogy of not just jumping off a cliff. Don't build something that you like unless you know your customers will like it. So go out and ask them. Let them lead you, what we call customer-led design. And this leads to, this covers most of section 3 and into section 4 of the application form. Why will customers purchase this? Why will they value it? They may want it, they may even need it, but are they actually going to pay good money for it? And one thing that should be clear in some of your answers is there a distinction between the paying customers and the users? So for example, with EdTech or e-learning type programs, it's not always the learner who pays for the product or the platform or the service. So who's the paying customer, who's the user? Have done some research and some preparation on that. But also, what value will your customer put on it? Because you will not have an idea how much to charge unless you've figured out the cost of their paying to them. Which leads us to your business model and revenue model, starting in section 4 of the application form. Describe it as best you understand it at the moment. It may change. In my experience, it probably will change. But is it B2B at the moment? Is it SaaS? What is it that you're planning to do? How will you service those customers and users? One tool that's used regularly in phase 1 and will be used again in phase 2 is a business model canvas or a lean business model canvas of some sort based on the work of Alexander Osterwalder and Eric Ries. Have a look at that stuff. It's good headings that will help you fill in more of this. What is your current thinking about your revenue and pricing model? If your answer is I don't know at all, maybe you need to do a bit more work to see, is this in any way worth 6 months of your time to pursue? Because that's what we're asking you to commit to. We know it's a risk on your part, but we want you to make that informed decision that yes, there is potential to charge for this. Because there, how are you going to generate? How are you going to make money? Some financial information is required in some of the sections. But the other thing is, we're not expecting you to have a full set of financial projections, because unless you're actually trading, we know them to be future truths, not necessarily evidence-based. We will ask you to support it, and we will ask you to identify it in more detail, because that's what investors will look at when they say, oh yeah, I'm interested, let's discuss X thousand of an investment, send us your full business plan with the financials and technicals and all that. You will need it, but give us an idea at this stage where you're headed with this. So not having any numbers is a challenge for you and for us to evaluate, is this a serious business proposition? And I mentioned already that we manage by milestones, or you can call them objectives, you can call them goals, targets. As long as you reach some of them, and as long as the ones you reach are helping you progress the business. So the last three sections of the form, section 4.4, 5.1 and 5.2, are about what have you done so far? Where is this going in the longer term? Eye on the prize, the bigger scalable idea. But most importantly, what are you going to do in the next 6 months to move you along that process of building a business? We have one main goal over the 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, you should have an investor level business plan and pitch and be ready to go out seeking professional investment. That's what we'll put you through the paces for, but you need to populate that. Coming in to the program, give yourself the credit for the work you've done. Entrepreneurs and founders are classic at forgetting the good stuff they've done because they're on to solving the next problem. They're problem solvers. But do remember that you have done some stuff. Have you spoken to customers? Have you a trial lined up? Be careful of the word validation. 5 people saying they love it is not market validation. It's not a bad start, but it's not market validation. If your market is 50,000 people in Ireland and 500,000 across Europe, you'll need to get a bit more evidence behind that validation. Have you started developing the product? Or sometimes, depending on the nature of the business, have you started interacting with customers around product development? Maybe you've got some investment to date, small amounts from family, friends, or people in the know, but not significant amounts. If there is already significant investment in the business, then New Frontiers is not for you. But you need to have ambition. I mentioned the minimum that Enterprise Ireland defines scaling as, but we'd love to see people grow beyond that. Sometimes it will take longer than the 6 months. It'll take longer than 2 or 3 years. Some of the businesses that we've dealt with over the years, it's taken 5 or 12 before they exit for significant sums, as they're called, which hopefully is more than a few million. But that's in the future. What are you going to do next? How will you measure your progress over the 6 months? And those are the ones on which we will be reviewing you every 2 months, subject to change. If the market tells you don't go that route, go that route, that's fine. Make a business decision. That's the practice you get to do within the supportive environment of the program. So help yourself by making the strongest case through all those parts of the application form. Some of them overlap. Some of them are looking at the same point from a couple of different angles. That's okay. We're trying to evaluate your business in the round based on a form. So give us the material to do that and show us that working through this 6 months will bring you to a point that is good for you and your business, and therefore is good for us, because that's the outcome that we want. The key dates that are coming up are any inquiries, use that central email for newfrontiers.hothouse@TU Dublin. The applications online will open at 9 a.m. on Monday, September 27th. There's a good amount of time to complete it. It is a hard deadline because, again, it's online and digitally stamped. Thereafter, shortlisting will apply. Thankfully, there's a lot of great entrepreneurs out there. Unfortunately, it makes it tougher for you guys. But then Startup Land is competitive. So we will have to evaluate down the applications that we receive down to an approximate number of about between 20 and 25 that we will bring for interview and pitch. To flag for those of you so that you can make yourself available, what we will then be looking for, and you will get guidance if you are shortlisted, and you will get feedback if you wish. There's a 10-minute presentation and a 20-minute Q&A with a panel, and those interviews and pitches will take place in the week beginning November 1st. Anybody who is successful to that point will get a schedule. The plan is for the program to start on Monday, November 22nd, full-time for 6 months. So we'll be with you until May 2022, which it seems like a long time away, but believe you me, and I've worked with a number of people who've been through all the cycles, I'm told regularly that the 6 months of phase 2 is faster than the 6 weeks of phase 1. But because you're doing a lot, you're working on a lot of fronts, and we're asking you to do stuff that maybe you're not 100% comfortable with, in the sense of, that's not the bit I like. I don't like the finances, or I don't like this. You are Chief Everything Officer for this business for the first few months. So that's why we ask you to be aware of all these bits that will help you build the picture and the reality that is a startup investable business. I was asked to give a few bits of feedback about stuff that doesn't work. I don't want to put you off, but I do want to give you a flag of the things that we have seen over the years that have maybe undermined somebody's case, which could have been stronger. I'll go back to section 1, people who are unclear about what is innovative. Tell us. We don't assume we know from a description of the functions or the benefits. Tell us what's innovative. People coming in the form with vague high-level market information. You know, we know the population of Ireland, we know the population of the world, well, not in detail, but we have a rough idea. But what is your market, the bit within it that you're targeting, that you think, based on your work so far, will generate demand for your product or service? That limited insight to customers, everybody will like one, is not true. There is no product in the world, and whether you're talking about Google or Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft, none of them have 100% market share of the world. So drill into the customers who should and would be using yours and get from them why they'll buy. That's your insight. And if that's coming from your previous experience in this domain, in this sector, in the workplace or in your studies, that's great. You've done some research because you need to back up those insights. Too much of a product focus, there does need to be a software, if it's a software piece of kit or if it's a physical product, all that's fine. But too many people build and then ask the customers, would you like to buy one? As opposed to figuring out what problem their product or service or software or platform, what problem will it solve? Then you work out how best to do it. That's the innovation. Being very unclear about what your business model is or your revenue model is. Just saying B2B or B2C on its own is not enough. Tell us a bit more about how you're going to service that market, or what your thinking is at this point, based on the work you have already done. I mentioned already that there have been challenges around people misrepresenting validation. I've read many of the applications and business plans over the years that have said, oh, we have full market validation for our product. And when you drill into it, they've spoken to 5 people who like the look of a picture. That's not enough. It's a start, but it's not enough. And you will never stop getting validation from the market. But what have you done so far? It's not as strong a case if you're still before the starting gates. The point of New Frontiers is that if people come in with some momentum, they leave going faster. It's an accelerator program in that sense. So the stronger you are coming in, the stronger you will be going out, just so long as you're not so far ahead that you don't need a support program. Having an unclear action plan for the 6 months, saying, I'll build it, I'll bring it to market, and I'll make money, is not a detailed enough action plan for 6 months, and definitely not to be funded to the tune of 15,000 euros over that 6 months. So think, how clear an action plan would you be asking from somebody who's asking you for 15,000 or 30,000 euros? That's the level that we're looking for. The other thing that I do need to flag is there may be a conflict with other or prior state enterprise funding. So for example, somebody who has already received a New Frontiers program or New Frontiers stipend for a previous business idea separately, sorry, but we can't provide the same support again. Ineligible if you've done New Frontiers Phase 2 anytime in the last 9 or 10 years that it's been there. If you've received significant state enterprise funding, that will be taken into account. But one of the most important things you need to know is you cannot receive 2 sets of funding at the same time. So if you are talking, for example, to a local enterprise office for feasibility funding to help you build a prototype, great, give yourself the credit for that. But that funding and project would need to be completed and drawn down before the New Frontiers Phase 2 program starts, because we can't give a stipend and you drawing other funding at the same time. While the founder is on New Frontiers Phase 2 and receiving stipend, they themselves cannot draw down any other state funding for enterprise. I'm only talking about enterprise. So a priming grant from a local enterprise office, direct funding from Enterprise Ireland. No, it's not permissible under state aid rules. You can't get 2 at the same time, but you can line it up for afterwards. It is only a 6-month program. Quite a number of people who participate in the program have applied for and been approved for something like Competitive Start Fund investment. That's Enterprise Ireland's 50,000 euros initial investment for equity. We don't take equity, by the way. As I said at the beginning, we don't own the business, you do. But the next step would be equity-based, whether it's an accelerator program or Business Angels or Enterprise Ireland. That cannot be drawn down at the same time as a New Frontier stipend. But as I said to a gentleman on a previous program who was very successful, I said, there's only 1 month left in the New Frontiers program. You can finish it out, but you won't get the last month's stipend, because I'm hoping you'll take the 50,000 euros on offer over here. That's the business decision. And that's success for you. But any equity investment like that will be based on milestones. So the investor, the agency will say, if you receive this funding from us, what will you do with it? Again, you will have practiced that through the program. These potential issues I'm flagging here are prior. They can impact on your application and make it less strong or less clear to us. It's not always clear. Startup land is challenging for anybody. You can be a bit at sea, and you can't always see exactly where it's going. In many instances, it's like driving at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can see the whole trip that way. That's the step-by-step for the 6 months that brings you to where you will use investment over the next 12 months to get to a scalable, investable, export-led business. That's where we want you to go. But that's why it's challenging at this point to tell us that story within the confines of this application form. Hence the information session tonight. I hope I've covered not all the angles, but enough angles for people to be aware of what is expected. But I'm open for questions as well.